Teen walks into fire station, clutching a blanket. Their discovery is heartbreaking. It was just past sunrise when the fire station doors creaked open. The firefighters were already up, grabbing coffee, prepping gear, starting their day, like any other. But then they saw her, standing there, just inside the doorway. A teenage girl. Maybe 15. Her clothes were wrinkled, her face pale. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her hair was messy, and she held something in her arms, tight, wrapped in a thin, worn-out blanket. She didn't say a word. The room went quiet. One of the firefighters, an older woman with a calm voice, stepped forward slowly. "Hey, sweetheart, are you all right?" she asked gently. The girl's eyes moved, but she didn't answer. She just hugged the bundle closer to her chest, like she was afraid someone might take it. Her knuckles were white from gripping it so tightly. Another firefighter set his coffee down and walked toward her, crouching a bit to meet her eyes. "You okay? Did something happen? Are you hurt?" Still nothing. Her lips moved slightly, like maybe she wanted to say something. But no sound came out, only the sound of her shaky breathing. The air in the room changed. Whatever this girl was carrying, it wasn't just an old blanket. A few more moments passed, heavy and silent. Then the older firefighter took a careful step closer. "We're here to help," she said softly. "But you've got to let us in. Whatever it is, you're not alone anymore, okay?" The girl looked down at the bundle. Her shoulders trembled. And then, finally, she gave a tiny nod. She loosened her grip, just barely, and the firefighter reached out gently, pulling back the edge of the blanket. Everything stopped. Inside, there was a baby, a newborn. So small, so still. The baby's skin looked bluish. He wasn't crying. His little chest was barely rising. He looked like he hadn't had a proper breath in a while. "Oh my God," the firefighter whispered, her instincts kicking in fast. "He's not breathing right. Get the med kit. Call the ambulance now." The whole room jumped into action. One grabbed oxygen. Another rushed for warm towels. A third was already on the radio. The girl just stood there, frozen, watching all of it. Her hands hung in the air where the baby had been just seconds ago. One of the firefighters moved to her, sighed, speaking softly. "Is he yours?" he asked, not accusing, just trying to understand. The girl blinked. Her lips parted, and for the first time, she spoke. "No," she whispered. He's not mine. He's my little brother." Her voice cracked on the word brother. The firefighters exchanged looks, but no one said anything yet. They were too focused on the baby, who was now being carefully warmed and given oxygen. Another blanket was wrapped around him. One firefighter gently massaged his tiny chest while the other monitored his breath. And then, finally, a sound. A small, weak little cry, soft but real. The baby was fighting. The girl stepped forward, tears now sliding down her cheeks. "Please, don't let him die." The older firefighter turned to her. "We won't. You did the right thing bringing him here. You saved his life." The sirens of the ambulance were already echoing in the distance. The girl looked down at her empty arms and then back at the baby, who was now surrounded by people trying to keep him alive. She looked so young, so scared, and yet so brave. Because somehow, in the middle of whatever chaos she had come from, she had found the courage to run here, with a baby in her arms, no coat, no phone, just a blanket and hope. And now, this quiet moment, the kind of moment that feels like the world has paused, was just the beginning. What brought her here? Why was the baby in her care, and what was she so afraid of? No one knew yet, but what was clear, right here in this little fire station, was that this girl's story was going to change everything. The ambulance doors flew open the second it pulled up. Paramedics rushed inside with a stretcher and gear in hand. The room that was already tense went silent again, except for the soft, uneven breathing of the tiny baby now lying on a table covered in warm towels. His chest rose and fell with a struggle, like each breath was a fight. The girl, still not saying much, watched everything from the corner of the room. Her arms were now empty, but they stayed wrapped around her middle like she was still holding him. She didn't cry anymore. She just stood there, frozen, like her mind hadn't caught up to what was happening around her. One of the paramedics leaned over the baby, nodding to the firefighters who'd done their best. "You kept him going," he said. "We've got him from here." The firefighters stepped back, but none of them moved far. They were attached now, emotionally. The baby wasn't just a call. They knew something bigger was going on. The girl finally walked closer. Her steps were slow and hesitant, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed. One firefighter, the same woman who first talked to her, noticed. She gently placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. "What's your name, honey?" she asked, keeping her voice calm and soft. "Lena?" the girl whispered. "Okay, Lena. I'm glad you're here. You were so brave to bring him to us. Do you want to ride in the ambulance with your brother?" Lena nodded quickly, afraid they'd say no. The paramedics helped her into the back of the ambulance while the firefighters loaded up the last of the supplies. As the doors closed behind her, one of the men turned to the captain and muttered, "That girl's been through something bad. I can feel it." The captain didn't respond right away. She just stared at the empty doorway where Lena had walked in minutes ago. "Yeah," she finally said. "We're only seeing the tip of it." In the back of the ambulance, Lena sat beside the tiny stretcher, watching her baby brother breathe under the oxygen mask. He looked so small, so fragile. His skin was pinker now, but still didn't look quite right. One of the paramedics gently asked, "Do you know how old the baby is?" Lena didn't answer at first. Then she said, barely above a whisper, "He was born this morning." The paramedic raised an eyebrow. "This morning?" She nodded. "At home, on the floor." That changed the whole situation. The look he gave. The other medic wasn't fear. It was urgency. Home births could be safe, but not this one. Not with a baby this premature. "Was there anyone else with you?" he asked carefully. "My mom," Lena said, swallowing hard. "But she was bleeding. A lot. She told me not to call anyone. She was scared. She made me promise." The paramedic looked at her, seeing the weight behind her words. "But you did call someone," he said gently. "You came to us. She didn't know I left," Lena said. "She was asleep. I couldn't wait anymore." The medic nodded slowly. "You did the right thing. You saved his life." But the girl didn't smile at that. She just kept looking at the baby. At the hospital, nurses and doctors were already waiting. The doors flew open as soon as the ambulance backed in. They whisked the baby into a treatment room while Lena followed, wide-eyed, not knowing where to go or what to do. A nurse gently stopped her outside the NICU doors. "You can't come in just yet, sweetie. They need to work on your brother." "But I need to be there," Lena said, her voice breaking. "He needs me. I promise. We'll let you know everything," the nurse said kindly. "Right now, the best thing you can do is let them work." Lena sank into a plastic chair in the hallway. The fluorescent lights buzzed quietly overhead. The smell of disinfectant stung her nose. She didn't know how long she sat there. 10 minutes, an hour, more. She just sat and stared at the door, arms wrapped tight around herself like she was still carrying that blanket. One of the firefighters showed up not long after, the one who had spoken to her back at the station. She knelt beside her, warm eyes meeting Lena's tired ones. "I came to check on you," she said. "And on your brother." Lena didn't say anything, but her eyes filled again. The woman sat with her in silence, just being there. Inside the NICU, The baby was fighting. Oxygen levels were improving, body temperature slowly rising. The team was focused, serious, but there was hope. The doctor eventually came out and told them, "He's stable for now, still critical, but he's responding." Lena nodded quietly, her face unreadable. She still didn't ask for anything, not food, not sleep, not even a phone call. The firefighter turned to her gently. "Do you want to tell me more? About how you ended up here?" Lena looked at her, like she wasn't sure if she could trust her. But something in her eyes softened. "I didn't know." "What else to do?" she whispered. I didn't want him to die." And that was all she needed to say. Because in that one sentence, everything became clear. This wasn't just a scared teenager. This was a sister who had risked everything to save her brother's life. The hallway outside the NICU felt colder than it should have. Lena sat there silently, arms crossed tightly, like she was trying to disappear into herself. Her eyes were red, not from crying, she wasn't crying anymore, but from the weight of everything sitting on her shoulders. The firefighter, the same woman who'd helped her at the station and stayed by her side since, sat nearby. She hadn't pushed Lena to talk. She just stayed close, gave her space, and when the time felt right, gently asked again, "Can you tell me what happened at home?" Lena looked down at her shoes. Her voice was quiet when she finally spoke. "My mom didn't want anyone to know. She was afraid. She didn't even tell me she was pregnant until a few months ago. She kept hiding it, wearing baggy clothes, staying inside. We don't go out much anyway." The firefighter listened, leaning forward slightly, careful not to interrupt. "She told me everything would be fine," Lena went on, "that she'd figure it out. But last night, she woke me up in the middle of the night. She was in pain and bleeding. I didn't know what to do. I begged her to let me call someone. She said no, over and over." Lena's eyes flicked toward the NICU doors, then back to her lap. The baby came fast. So fast, on the floor. In the bathroom. She swallowed hard. "He wasn't crying," she whispered. "He wasn't even breathing at first. My mom passed out. I thought I was going to lose them both." The firefighter's heart ached. She reached over and gently placed her hand over Lena's, grounding her. "So I wrapped him up," Lena said, grabbed a blanket, held him close, and ran. I knew the fire station was only a few blocks away. I remembered from a field trip when I was little. "You were incredible," the firefighter said softly. "You didn't freeze. You didn't run away. You got him help." Lena shook her head. "I was so scared. I still am." She finally looked up, her eyes glassy. "What's going to happen now? Will they take him away from us? Will they take me away too?" The firefighter sighed. She wanted to say no. She wanted to tell Lena everything would be fine. But the truth was more complicated. And this girl had been lied to enough. "I don't know yet," she said honestly, "but I promise, we're going to make sure he's safe, and you too. No one's here to punish you. Right now, we're just focused on getting your brother healthy." Lena nodded slowly, but the fear didn't leave her eyes. Just then, the nurse stepped into the hallway. "You can come see him," she said gently, "but only for a few minutes." Lena stood up so quickly it startled the firefighter. She followed the nurse without hesitation, past rows of machines and softly blinking monitors until they reached the small incubator holding her baby brother. He looked even smaller than she remembered. Wires were taped to his chest and a tiny tube helped him breathe. But he was alive. He was here. The nurse smiled kindly. "You can talk to him, you know. Babies recognize voices. It helps them feel safe." Lena stepped closer. She placed her hand on the plastic wall of the incubator and leaned in. Hey, she whispered, voice shaking. It's me. I'm right here. You're okay now. She stood there for a long time, not caring who was watching. Just whispering to the tiny boy who'd somehow become her whole world in a matter of hours. When she finally stepped back, tears ran silently down her face. But this time, they weren't just from fear. They were from relief, too. Outside the NICU, the firefighter waited. She didn't need to ask what Lena was thinking. She already knew. Lena sat back down beside her. His name's Noah, she said quietly. I gave him that name. My mom never picked one. Noah's a beautiful name, the firefighter said. I don't want to lose him, Lena whispered. I'll do anything. I'll take care of him. If I have to, I'll do it alone. You're not alone anymore, the firefighter said. Not now. And she meant it. But inside, she knew the situation was more fragile than Lena understood. A miner taking care of a newborn, a mother in crisis, and a system that didn't always have the softest hands. Still. As she looked at Lena, bruised by life but not broken, she thought, maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. It had only been a few hours since Lena stepped into the fire station, but it already felt like days had passed. So much had changed, and yet everything that mattered was still hanging by a thread. In a quiet consultation room just down the hall from the NICU, the firefighter sat with a hospital social worker who'd been brought in to help. Her name was Miss Alina, a calm, warm-faced woman who looked like she had seen hundreds of hard cases, and still cared about every single one. Lena sat across from them, holding a cup of warm tea she hadn't touched. Her fingers just wrapped around it, as if she needed something to hold on to. We're not here to scare you, Miss Alina said gently. But we do need to understand what's happening at home. You're not in trouble, Lena. We just want to make sure you and your brother are safe. Lena nodded barely. The firefighter leaned in a little. Do you feel safe where you live? Lena hesitated. It's not dangerous. Not always, she said slowly. My mom just gets overwhelmed, especially when things go wrong. Miss Alina exchanged a glance with the firefighter, then asked softly, Does she use drugs again? The silence that followed was the loudest moment in the room. Lena didn't answer at first. Her eyes flickered to the door, as if maybe she could just walk out and pretend none of this was happening. But she didn't move. She just closed her eyes for a moment, then nodded. She was clean, she said. For a while. When I moved back in with her, she swore she'd changed. And at first, it felt true. We were cooking dinner together, watching movies, talking again. I thought we were going to be okay. She paused, breathing through the emotion rising in her chest. But after a few months, I could tell something was off. She started sleeping all day. She lost her job. Bills piled up, and I could smell it sometimes when she thought I was asleep. That same smell from when I was little. Miss Alina reached across the table, offering a tissue. But Lena didn't take it. She just kept going. Then one day she sat me down and told me she was pregnant. I didn't even notice it before that. She made me swear I wouldn't tell anyone. She said if the state found out, they'd take us both away again. I already lost her once, and I didn't want to go back to foster care. The firefighter felt a dull ache in her chest. She could see the weight of years on this girl's shoulders, a teenager who was barely holding it together, not just today, but every day for a long time. Where's your dad? Miss Alina asked gently. Gone, Lena replied quickly. I think he's in another state. I haven't talked to him since I was 8, and the baby's dad, I don't even know who he is. My mom never said. There was another long pause. Miss Alina wrote some notes on a clipboard but kept her tone soft. Lena, I have to be honest with you. Because of how your brother was born and how young you are, we'll need to involve Child Protective Services. Lena's whole body tensed. Her grip on the teacup tightened. So they're going to take him? Not necessarily, Miss Alina said quickly. The goal isn't to separate families. The goal is to protect children, and sometimes that means helping parents and caregivers get support. It could mean temporary arrangements or family plans where you stay together. But we have to be honest and open. That's how we keep options on the table. I can take care of him, Lena said quietly. I know I'm young, but I've done more for him already than anyone else. I got him here. I saved his life. I know, Miss Alina replied, and no one is ignoring that. What you did today was extraordinary. You were a hero. But even heroes need help sometimes. Lena looked down at the tea again. If I tell them everything, about my mom, about the drugs, they'll never let us stay together. The firefighter finally spoke. Lena, keeping secrets didn't protect your brother. You speaking up did. And speaking up now might be the only thing that gives your family a real chance to stay together, with the right help. The door suddenly opened behind them. A nurse peeked her head in. He's awake, she said softly. And stable for now. You can come see him again if you'd like. Lena was already up before the nurse finished speaking. But at the door, she stopped. She turned around, looked at both women. If I tell you everything, she said, her voice trembling but steady, can you promise you won't just treat us like some broken family? No, the firefighter said gently. We're going to treat you like one worth saving. And that was enough for Lena to take the first real breath she'd taken all day. Lena walked into the NICU again, her shoes making no sound on the polished floor. She'd been here twice already, but this time felt heavier. Not just because of her baby brother's tiny body inside that glass incubator, but because of what she knew she had to face next. She reached the clear case and rested her fingertips gently on the side. Noah's chest rose and fell with help from the machine, but his color looked a little better. The nurses said he was strong, a fighter. I don't know if you understand me yet, she whispered, her breath fogging the side of the plastic. But I'm trying so hard to make this okay. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Her voice cracked, and she quickly wiped at her face. There wasn't time to fall apart. Just outside the NICU, a nurse waited with a phone in hand. She's on the line, the nurse said quietly. Your mom. We told her you were here and she asked to speak to you. Lena nodded and took the phone with a shaky hand. She stepped into a quiet corner of the hallway and pressed the phone to her ear. Hello? There was a beat of silence, and then her mother's voice rushed through, frantic and breathless. Lena! Baby, are you okay? Where are you? What happened? Why did you leave? Lena felt a lump rise in her throat. She didn't know how to start. I brought the baby to the fire station. He wasn't breathing, Mom. I had to. You what? Her mother's voice broke into a sob. No. They're going. To find out now. We're in trouble. They'll take you away again. They'll take him. I didn't know what else to do, Lena said, her voice cracking. You passed out and he was turning blue. I thought he was going to die. I told you not to call anyone, her mom snapped, then instantly softened. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I was scared. I still am. I didn't think this would happen so fast. Lena stayed quiet. She could feel her hands shaking again. After a pause, her mom whispered, Is he okay? He's alive. For now. The doctors are trying to help him breathe. They said he's very early and really small. There was silence on the other end, then another sob. Where are you? Lena asked, not accusing, just needing to know. I'm still at the apartment, her mom said. I woke up and you were gone. There was blood everywhere. I thought something happened to you. I left a note. I didn't see it. There was another long silence. Are you coming here? Lena asked softly. I don't know, her mom whispered. I'm scared, Lena. Me too, Lena said, her voice barely above a breath. An hour later, her mom did show up. She looked like a shadow of herself, pale, thin, her sweatshirt stained, her eyes wild and sunken from exhaustion and fear. But she was there. Lena stood when she saw her and didn't say anything. Neither did her mom. They just stared at each other for a moment before her mother broke the silence. I didn't think you'd really do it, she said, tears brimming in her eyes. I didn't think I had a choice, Lena replied. I thought he was going to die. Her mom nodded slowly, defeated. You did the right thing. I wasn't ready. I didn't know how to handle this. I didn't plan for anything. Lena looked down, feeling both angry and sorry for her at the same time. You shouldn't have had to do it alone. They sat together in the consultation room with the social worker, Miss Alina, who now had to walk them through the hardest part, what came next. Because this situation involves a minor mother and a newborn in critical condition, we are legally required to notify Child Protective Services, she said gently. Her mom nodded stiffly. I figured. But, Miss Alina added, this doesn't mean your family will be separated. If you're willing to work with us, to be honest and follow a support plan, we'll do everything we can to keep you together. It's about safety and stability, not punishment. Lena watched her mom's face twist with fear, shame, and something like hope. I want to try, her mom said. I want to get clean. I just didn't think anyone would help. You're not alone now, Miss Alina said. But we'll need your full truth to move forward. And for once, Lena's mom didn't argue. She just nodded, wiped her face, and said softly, Okay. Lena sat quietly beside her, staring at her hands, which still had tiny streaks of dried blood from when she carried her brother. And as her mom began telling the truth, the whole messy, painful truth, Lena didn't know what tomorrow would look like. But for the first time in a long time, it felt like they were facing it together. The next morning, the hospital was quieter. The chaos of the emergency had passed, but the tension hadn't left. Everything now moved slower, cautiously, like everyone knew they were walking a fine line. One wrong step, and everything could fall apart. Lena sat by the NICU window, a book open on her lap she hadn't read a single page of. Her eyes were locked on her baby brother, Noah, who lay inside the warm glow of the incubator. Tubes still ran across his body, and machines beeped steadily beside him, but his chest rose with more rhythm now. He looked a little stronger, a little more here. Good morning, said a familiar voice. It was the firefighter, the same one who had stayed with her from the start. She stepped into the NICU, holding 2 cups of hot cocoa. I figured you haven't eaten, she said, offering one. Thanks, Lena murmured, accepting it without meeting her eyes. They sat together quietly, watching Noah's tiny fingers twitch. You've done a lot for him, the firefighter said softly. More than most people twice your age could manage. I didn't do enough, Lena said. If I had, maybe he wouldn't have come so early. Maybe he wouldn't need all this. The firefighter turned to face her. You're not responsible for everything, Lena. You were trying to hold your world together. That's not failure. That's survival. Lena blinked hard and took a sip, letting the warmth settle in her chest. There was a knock on the NICU door. A nurse opened it gently, nodding to both of them. Social worker is here, she said kindly. Ready to talk about next steps, if you're ready. Lena stood, up slowly, glancing one last time at her brother. Be strong, okay? She whispered. I'll figure this out. In the meeting room, Lena and her mom sat side by side. For once, her mom looked calm, exhausted, but calm. She had showered, wore clean clothes. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The social worker, Miss Alina, had a folder open in front of her. "So here's what we're recommending," she began. "We'll build a support plan for your family, one that focuses on recovery, parenting skills, and stability." Lena's mom nodded. "I'm ready. I know I need help. I've already scheduled my intake for a treatment center down the street." "That's good," Miss Alina said, her voice sincere. "That makes a big difference. And for you, Lena, your school counselor has agreed to help you catch up. They're even working on getting you a tutor. We're also looking into mentorship programs in case you're still interested in healthcare down the line." Lena's head lifted slowly. "You talked to my school?" "We want you to keep dreaming," Miss Alina said. "Even with everything happening, you deserve that." Lena glanced at her mom, unsure what to feel. "But I'm the one who takes care of everything. I don't know how to just go back to being a student." "You don't have to choose," the firefighter said, speaking for the first time. "You're a sister, a student, a daughter. You're allowed to be all of those things, just not all at once, all the time." Lena bit her lip. "What if Mom relapses again? What if I'm not there to catch it next time?" Her mom spoke then, quietly but firmly. "You don't have to be my safety net anymore, Lena. I mean it. I've already started therapy. I'm meeting with a sponsor tomorrow. I want to be someone you can count on again, not the other way around." Tears filled Lena's eyes before she could stop them. She looked away, wiping them quickly. "I want to believe you." "I know," her mom said softly. "And I'm going to earn that." Later that evening, Lena returned to the NICU alone. She stood over Noah, watching his tiny fingers curl and uncurl in sleep. Her mom had gone home, with the social worker promising to return early the next morning. "I still don't know how to do this," Lena whispered, "but I think I believe her. Just a little." The NICU nurse passed by and smiled. "He's doing better. You should see his numbers. He's got a little fighter's heart." Lena smiled for real, for the first time in days. "Yeah, he gets that from both of us." She sat down and placed her palm gently on the side of the incubator, eyes locked on the baby she had fought so hard to protect. A week ago, she was just trying to keep a secret. Now she was trying to build a future, and somehow that felt even harder, but also possible. 2 weeks had passed. The NICU looked the same, quiet, bright, filled with gentle beeping and soft-spoken nurses. But for Lena, everything felt different. For the first time in what felt like forever, she wasn't just reacting to a crisis. She was living inside a fragile kind of hope. Noah had gained a few ounces. Not much, but enough that the nurses smiled more when they checked his charts. He was breathing better now, sometimes without the oxygen tube for short stretches. He even opened his eyes a little longer each day, blinking up at the world like he wasn't sure what to make of it. Lena stood beside his incubator, watching, his chest rise and fall. A nurse gently opened the panel and gestured to her. "Want to try some skin-to-skin today?" Lena blinked. "Me? Really? You're his big sister, aren't you?" The nurse smiled. "You've earned it." A few minutes later, Lena sat in a recliner, hospital gown pulled over her shoulders, and Noah tucked against her chest. He was barely the size of a loaf of bread. He didn't cry, didn't move much, just lay there, breathing in the rhythm of her heartbeat. And for a moment, everything felt still. No fear, no decisions, just this, warmth, life, quiet. She looked down at him. "You scared me," she whispered. "You still do, but I'm glad you're here." Her mom visited every day now, not in the frantic, desperate way she had at first, but in a slow, steady way, showing up early, staying late, asking questions. She had joined a recovery program. She'd missed a meeting once, but called her sponsor immediately. She wasn't perfect, but she wasn't hiding anymore. The social worker, Miss Alina, had been keeping a close eye on everything. She'd even stopped by one afternoon with news. If things stayed on track, they'd start preparing for discharge in a few more weeks. But, she warned kindly, once Noah goes home, the real work begins. Lena already knew that. The sleepless nights, the doctor visits, the social worker check-ins, the constant balancing act between helping at home and staying focused at school. "I'll help," Lena had said quickly. "Whatever he needs, I'll be there." Miss Alina smiled. "I believe that, but I also want to make sure someone's helping you." Lena didn't know how to answer that, because the truth was, she didn't really know how to be cared for. She only knew how to handle things. One afternoon, her school guidance counselor came to visit. She brought a folder, SAT prep materials, tutoring times, scholarship options. "I heard you want to be a nurse," she said gently. "Still feel that way?" Lena looked down at her hands, then nodded. "Yeah, I do. More than ever." "Well," the counselor said, placing a hand over hers, "let's make a plan. Just because life got hard doesn't mean your dreams have to disappear." It wasn't a miracle. There were still bills to figure out. Housing checks, case managers, a long list of things that could fall apart. But slowly, things were coming together. And then, the day finally came. Noah was strong enough to go home. The hospital staff gathered quietly as Lena and her mom gently placed him in a car seat, checking every buckle 3 times. He wore a little blue cap, knitted by one of the NICU volunteers. He still looked small, but he was more alert now, eyes wide, head turning toward every new sound. Her mom looked at Lena, and for the first time in years, there was no guilt. In her eyes, only gratitude. "You saved him," she whispered, "and you saved me too." Lena didn't respond right away. She just looked at her baby brother and thought about everything they'd made it through. The hallway, the fire station, the incubator, the waiting, the fear, and now, this. Outside the hospital, sunlight poured through the windows as they stepped into the fresh air, Noah bundled tight and sleeping peacefully. Weeks passed. They had good days and hard ones. Days when Lena's mom cried in frustration. Days when Noah wouldn't stop crying. Days when the power bill came late, and they had to call for help. But there were victories too, like when Noah smiled for the first time, or when Lena passed her biology midterm, or when her mom picked up her 3-month sobriety chip with tears in her eyes and her daughter beside her. Their apartment wasn't big, their life wasn't perfect, but there was love in every corner, and a quiet strength that hadn't existed before. One evening, Lena stood at her bedroom window, holding Noah in her arms as the sun dipped below the rooftops. Her homework was spread across her bed, her nursing textbooks open and waiting. She looked down at her brother, his little eyes fluttering closed. "You're going to grow up strong," she whispered. Not because everything was perfect, but because we made it anyway. Behind her, her mom was folding laundry. There was a casserole in the oven, and a calendar on the wall with therapy sessions, pediatric appointments, and college prep dates all marked out in bright colors. It wasn't easy. It wasn't ever going to be, but it was real, and it was theirs. Outrow, optional for your YouTube voiceover. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of the power of resilience, family, or second chances, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe in stories that heal, stories that matter, hit that subscribe button. Because on this channel, every life has a voice. Thank you for listening to Lena's story. Until next time, stay kind.